Contemporary context, reflective presentation. At the beginning of contemporary context, we learned how to work with colour palettes, putting our textile samples into context, working with photo digital imagery, and then heading towards the end of the assignments, we learned how to present our work to an audience. It was a very long journey. There were many obstacles that I came up against, and I was prepared to face the obstacles of photographic work with Photoshop, be more critical, do more critical analysis on my work, which was to talk about samples or talk about the portfolio or talk about a sketchbook. And since then, I've kind of now been a little bit more confident in these areas, and also now, hence why I'm preparing my evaluation via video, is because I feel a little bit more confident with preparing and downloading and putting on a video. So there was quite a lot thrown at me, which kind of put me out of my depth. I think there were some areas of strengths and weaknesses. My areas of strength are my creativity with sample making, my thought processes and my ideas, and I always seem to get positive feedback on my sampling, that it's exciting, it's playful, it's imaginary. The only thing that I would say that is possibly a negative connotation with this is that I do have a tendency to become too over enthusiastic and have a tendency to produce too many samples, where I get to a point where I find it very difficult to refine and let go of those areas that I put together with the samples, and find it very difficult to focus on finding a technique or finding a material that I particularly like working with. But I think that is just genuinely down to enjoying the studies and just being a little bit over enthusiastic, so it kind of becomes a little bit too much. But the one thing that I did learn to do was to select and sort, put things down in front of me, use a lot of photographic work, step away from these situations that I may have got myself into where I didn't know what to pick and choose. But I learned how to do this over a period of time within the studies. And I think I did lose my way at a point of the art textiles, and I think it was because I just didn't particularly feel as though, where was this assignment going? Whereas with the fashion textiles and the interior textiles, I thoroughly enjoyed those, and I will say that there were some beautiful samples produced, very inventive, very three-dimensional, very investigative. So on the whole, I was very, very pleased with the outcomes on those areas. I've directed a lot of my work towards fashion because I am a lover of fashion. I have find it fascinating how somebody can take a flat piece of fabric and construct it three-dimensionally. It's just something that I have a feel for, and I think this is where I do have a tendency to direct my work towards. Now, the refinement did become a bit of a problem, and it wasn't till I hit the stage of the independent project where I kind of felt this was my time to try and use all the skill sets that I'd learnt and what contemporary context had taught me. So the independent project was directed. It was simplified a little bit more with the theme. It was simplified with the contextual research, and it was simplified with its construction. And the outcome I was really pleased with, and I think my tutor was pleased with that. The work had actually found a direction of where it was heading towards. Now, when we went on to assignment 6, again, the direction, it fell into place for me. The samples really worked, the refinement really worked, and I kind of felt a little bit more relaxed in my approach to my work, in the fact that I did actually come up with a pretty decent final presentation. As we can see, the samples have become more simplified in their refinement, and this allowed me to still push the boundaries within these areas, and they also fitted the brief. They fitted the brief of my contextual research, and they fitted the brief of my theme, and they also fitted the brief of the context of which the samples were going to be set, with fashion illustration, either for a garment or for an embellishment on a collar or a panel for a jacket. But the ultimate outcome, which I am really, really pleased with, that kind of finished the assignment for contemporary context, was my independent presentation. Now, the presentation was another skill set. I learned how to put together a slideshow. I became very inventive, but I'd also learned that I didn't need to write masses and masses explaining what my work was all about. This opened many doors in this assignment. It enabled me to start to produce a mini project on trend boards, where I've been able to manipulate some of my photographic work in my samples, which I was never confident with before. And it also allowed me to push the mood board theme so that it became more extensive. So the overall presentation for the assignment was a package for a design company. Now, this has worked really, really well, even though when I look at the work as an overview, there was still a lot of work involved. But I think because I felt a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more directed, it kind of worked. And I think one thing that I have learned with contextual context and contemporary context is that I do need to relax a little bit more in my work to get the best out of it. And I think I genuinely achieved this. So I think, I did pretty okay.